All right, welcome guys. Just checking all my stuff here. This was a race against time today to get everything ready for the stream. So I hope you're all well. This is, of course, the big one, the monthly stream where you can ask me anything you want to ask me. But remember, this comes from the private community first and foremost. Then if we have time at the end, I'll go into a lot of other questions. But a lot of these questions will be on your mind anyway, and they'll be covered off. Also, if you like the monthly stream, you can go back. There's a playlist on the channel where you can watch all the other streams. Pretty much any question you've got, you'll see it on the chapters. So it's all done by chapter, and then you can have a look at any questions that you might have, and you'll see what questions you're interested in, and that's an easy way to get a lot of questions answered. So as always, where are you watching from or listening from today? I always love to know where my subscribers are. Although I don't really like that word. I consider you guys more like friends than subscribers, part of the bigger family. So where are you from? Denmark. Okay, great. We got Fabrice online. We've got Dave DVD. I don't know how to even pronounce that. Lithuania. Good to have you. Let's see where else everyone's from today. And then we're going to get into some questions. Okay, we've got Jennifer in Washington, D.C. Switzerland, Grant, good to have you online, my friend. Alex, Austria. Neil in Colorado. Jennifer, Indiana. I love Indiana. Neil, are you a Freemason? No, I'm not a Freemason. We've got questions coming through already. No, I'm not a 33 degree or whatever they're called, Freemason. No. Netherlands, Brazil, Jersey. Good. Jason in Arizona. We've got Trevor, Hertfordshire. Graham in the UK. Well, here we go. It's just coming now. Ireland, Taiwan. People from everywhere. Oh, we've got Whites. Yeah, Whites, I think I've got your question here, my friend. Yep. EU inflation. We're going to cover that off. So we got some good questions today. I think we got 7 or 8 questions. I'll be honest, I've only actually looked at a couple beforehand and prepped something. The rest is just going to be a freestyle here, guys. So bear with me. Hopefully I can manage some of this because they look pretty complex questions here. All right. Okay, good. Thanks for letting me know where you all are. Paul in London. Ralph in California, great. Thanks so much for being online. I really appreciate you guys. Remember to click the like button if you can. Appreciate that. All right, so we're going to start with Jeremy. His question is, hi Neil, my question is in regards to the possibility of continued inflation and if it could cause a stock market crash up. Interesting. So high rate of rising stock prices instead of down. That is really interesting. So Neil, what's your view on this concept? So a stock market crash upwards. Okay. Well, if we look at the correlations, and it's easy to find these sort of charts actually, you can see, especially on the scatter charts, you can see that they tend to, that isn't what tends to happen. I think the only way I could ever see that happening would be in a hyperinflationary scenario. So if we had a hyperinflation occur somewhere, you would probably see the stock market reflect that. Because remember, the stock market tends to, not always, but it tends to reflect in some regards the amount of currency in that country. And you can see this proven in a number of models. You can go back right back to the 40s and you can compare the CPI to stock prices and what they were doing. And you see when there tended to be, high growth in the CPI, and that's not a good thing, so that's inflation, the stock market tended to inflate as well. When you had deflation, the stock market tended to deflate as well. But again, you can't just take that as a general rule, because if you look at the scatter graph, it tends to pull right in the middle, and then there's a few sort of outliers. So how do we apply that to today then? Well, if you look at all the quantitative easing that's been done, and for those of you that don't know, quantitative easing is where the central bank creates new currency and puts it into the pool, right? So you've got this pool of currency. They create QE, and that goes in, and then it expands everything. It expands assets. Housing market going up, stock market going up. And this is why a lot of economists actually missed a huge miss. Some of the biggest investors actually in the world missed it over the last 18 months because no one really expected the amount of QE to actually occur in the trillions. I don't know what the final figure is now, but earlier in the year it was about 35% of all dollars in creation were printed in the last year. That is staggering. So then at that point, it's pretty obvious. That's when I changed my housing market outlook. It's pretty obvious what's going to happen. All of that currency needs to find a place. And what do they say? Safe as houses. And that's why the stock market's been inflating as well. So with your question here, do I see a stock market crash up? Not really. I don't think so. Let me see if there's anything else I want to add. The other thing that I guess I can say on this is that rising inflation on the stock market can cause lower profitability long term. So of course you have growth stocks, you have value stocks. Okay, so what's better? I would say maybe value stocks right now, but I would be looking towards growth stocks next once the disinflation starts to kick in. So that's another point for you if you're asking because you actually want to invest. But you've got to think, what does rising inflation do? It causes a lot of problems at the entry level as well. Because if you are a manufacturer, what happens when you have rising inflation? Well, yes, you've got to, add more costs onto your finished product. But the problem is the raw material, the ingredients or whatever it is that's actually coming in is going to cost a lot more. We talked this week or last week, however you want to say it, on the shipping containers. And look what happened with the shipping containers. $1,700, now $20,000 to get a shipping container in. Actually, I spent some time speaking with some, it's confidential, so I'll just say CEOs. So some of the biggest CEOs in terms of wholesalers and people who bring in products from overseas, raw materials, finished goods. This week spoke to a body, and it was very interesting. And they were really in panic mode, and I mean big time panic mode. And they were saying, why are the government not doing anything about this? I mean, these ladies and men were really in panic mode. I was just, listening on my Zoom as normal, and I thought, you can see they're really worried about what's happening. And that's how I was hearing about some of the prices they're paying on shipping containers and how they're now up to 11-month lead time in some of the products and services. This is why I sent out the message to a lot of people this week and said, get your Christmas gifts in now. Go out, buy your Christmas stuff now. And people were like, have you been talking to Kamala Harris? Because she's just said that an hour after you tweeted that or whatever, whoever I put it on the Patreon or whatever. Because, yeah, you've got to get your Christmas gifts in now, get your Christmas food in now, stock up, get your freezer full, because it's not going to be there. And another thing interesting, talked about water. In fact, I might stream this week, but I did a video on water yesterday. A lot of people said, Neil, I tried to buy water filtration systems. I tried to buy the big water jugs from the grocery store. There's none available. And I went online. It's actually true. In a lot of grocery stores, they don't have any of this. So there's obviously a lot of supply chain issues. But what's weird is a lot of this water is bottled, let's say, in the UK or in the USA. It hasn't got far to go, and yet it's out of stock at the stores. It's very strange, actually. So I think I've answered your question there, but really value stocks perform better in high inflationary periods. So if you're looking for what you want to buy, value stocks now while there's a lot of inflation, and then growth stocks later on is what I would say personally. But just remember, I'm not in the stock market right now. I still look at it and watch it, but I'm out because what I track is the currency versus the assets, you see, versus the equities and the markets. And I'm not really seeing much of a disconnect between the markets and the currency supply. The only one I'm seeing it in is in cryptocurrencies. I know there's a question on here about crypto. I just glanced at it there. So I'll cover that. But that's why this year I've done crypto again. I've done another 100% this year. That's a lot better than getting 20, 30, 40% in the stock market for me personally. So that's why I've done that. Now, before everyone gets upset, because I know it's an older audience that watches me, I'm not recommending crypto to you. It's completely up to you. I'm in it, but I can afford to take the risk with some of this capital. This is investment money. It makes no difference to me whether I doubled it, tripled it, or lost it all. This is just investment money. It makes no difference to my lifestyle at all. Okay, so let's look at the next one then, and that's Andrew. I'm not going to do surnames anymore, so we'll just say Andrew. Okay. Hi Neil, what do you think will happen with the combination of worker shortages and supply chain bottlenecks in the next few months? More specifically, how probable is it that we have a supply shock and massive jump in prices for food and services, gas, etc.? I think it's 100% certain, Andrew. We're already experiencing it now already, as I just alluded to, with the shipping containers and everything. When you have these raw materials coming in and they're more expensive, they have to get passed on. And the more it gets passed on down the chain, eventually prices at the consumer level that you're noticing in the stores now are going up and up and up and up and up. And this is in direct correlation to the inflation is in direct correlation to the QE. A lot of people mistakenly say the QE doesn't get into the currency supply, but it does. It really does. Now, some of it doesn't. Granted, you have the Fed account and the commercial bank account and the swaps and all that. We're not going to get into that. But the QE does get into the markets eventually. And then when you have supply chain breakdowns as well, this then adds more cost on at the entry level. So all of this, just all the way up the chain, you get prices going up. So what do I think will happen with the combo of worker shortages and supply chain? I think we're going to see increased prices. Also increased wages. I think wages are going to go up. But as wages keep going up like this, you're going to see another problem. And businesses are going to automate. They're going to create more AI and they're going to create more robotics. Or any way they can, they're going to automate. They're going to outsource, let's say, there's certain jobs that cost the company a lot of money. They might start outsourcing that to India if it's technical, the Philippines if it's customer service based, etc. So this is another trend that you're going to see. And it's worrying. It is worrying in the West. But but you know what I always look at? I look at where there are, especially in the Patreon, people ask me a lot. That's the private community I talk about a lot. People ask me, Neil, what should I go into? What sort of line of work right now? And if you have certain skills, like let's take, for example, you are a normal middle class person, okay? You got a family or whatever, and you're earning a certain amount of money. Well, let's say that you used to be an HGV driver, heavy goods vehicle driver, in the UK or wherever. Maybe it applies in the US as well. You've seen salaries and pay go up 40% in the last 6 months. Obviously, if you wanted to just earn some fast money quickly, you would go and do something like that. Right? You might go back and do HGV. You want to look at where the money is and where the money's going to be, not where the money was previously. You see, a lot of people do this. A lot of people say, I'm going to be an airline pilot, right? For example, I'm going to be an airline pilot because they make 100 grand or more a year. But that's, again, you're looking at where the money was, not where the money's going to. You see, this is the difference. So you've got to always look at that as well. You want to be looking ahead into the future, not into the past. Because look what's happening now. There's too many pilots for the amount of flights that are going around. So that's another thing to do. You've always got to look at all of this together. I don't even know if I answered that question, Andrew. Sometimes I just rattle on with other stuff. But we're going to move on to George's question now. Hi, Neil. What is your long-term view on investing into silver? Thanks, George. Well, George, silver is not an investment in the terms of It depends how you classify the word investment. You know, it's all semantics, isn't it? For me, I'm guessing you're asking because you watched my silver series last, I don't know, early last year, where I talked about silver and, you know, how it was going to explode and all of that. One thing and this is a bit of advice for every single person watching. When you see my videos, you have to take into account the variable of time. And most people don't do that, you see. When they're investing, they just look at what can I invest into where people have made a lot of money. Again, it's the airline pilot example. Oh, silver went up 100%. I should invest into silver. Maybe not. Oh, crypto's just gone up 100%. I should go into crypto. Again, maybe not. You see, you want to be looking for what's going to explode next. So when I made that video series last year, it's because I was extremely confident that silver was about to double. Extremely confident. And then it did. Within 3 or 4 months there, it actually doubled. So all the money that I just threw into silver, I went pretty much all in on it. Not quite, but all in on spare capital. And it doubled. And then I sold down some of it, etc. I'll talk about that a bit later in terms of how you actually increase your net worth. So I sold that down. What was the next speculative asset I saw? Cryptocurrency. And that's why I went into it in November, December 2020. And it was it was a huge learning curve. It really was. And I still spend a couple of hours every day learning about crypto even now. It's an extremely complex market. It's not just one of those things you can just jump into without understanding it. So you've always got to be looking for that. And if you remember last year when I jumped into it, bought in at Bitcoin at 18K, doubled at 36K, etc. And then I cash out, take out my initial investment, etc. Well, then what happened earlier this year in, was it April when the crypto crash happened? That's when I went pretty much, not all in, but I probably put about 70 to 80% of all my spare cash into crypto. I just bought in so heavily. And again, it's up about, I don't know what it's up exactly, the portfolio, but some of them are up 150%, some of them are up 10%, etc. It probably averages out at 80%. Let's just say that. So this is what you want to be looking for. You want to be looking for assets that you can buy that you think are about to explode up in value. The worst thing to do is to buy assets that are already at an all-time high and then expect them to just keep going up. Well, maybe not. Without liquidity being injected into the markets, quantitative easing, etc., where's the growth going to come from that's going to give you that 1,000% return? I just can't see where it's going to come from, or even 100% return. Where's it going to come from? So these are things that you want to be looking at. So I'm guessing that's really what you were asking there, George. But I'm going to just come back to your question. So what is my long-term view of silver? Having gone into it 18 months ago when it was at $14 an ounce, and today it's probably $28 or whatever it's at, maybe $26, $25 an ounce today. I think we've probably already seen the big growth in silver right now. This is just right now. However, if we go into another recession, like a deep recession, I think you're going to see more growth in silver. But then as you come out that recession, it's going to decline again, much like the patterns of the last couple of recessions. So because everyone thinks that the economy is doing great, the world's doing great right now, I don't think there's a huge amount of growth for silver, personally. And that's why I sold down some of my silver when it doubled in price. So to me, it doesn't make any difference what happens to silver. It could go back, it could lose half its value to $14. It wouldn't make any difference because I've already cashed out the profits that I made. So this is the way you want to look at it. Make those big gains and then actually cash out. But when it comes to precious metals, so gold and silver, for example, look at it as a store of value. Don't look at it necessarily as an investment. So let's say you had 10 grand, $10,000, euros, pounds, whatever, and you were worried, you don't know what to do with it. And you just thought, well, I'm going to put it into something that's not going to go down in value, like silver or gold. Well, it could go down in value. but it's better than putting it into a very small market cap cryptocurrency that costs 0.00001 cent per unit and hoping it's going to explode, but actually it dies and you lose every last penny that you put into it. Silver and gold's never going to do that. It's going to hold its value. It's never going to go to zero. But the next thing is, if you look at, let's say, EV technology, electric vehicles and everything else, technology has boomed in the last year because of the lockdowns and things like that, more remote. I think we're going to continue on that way. And silver is in short supply. It's a metal that there's a limited supply of it. And it's used heavily in technology and in industry. It's an industrial metal, really, although it's also a precious metal. So it's got a lot of value, but it's just when is it going to hit that value? So really, you've got two ways of looking at this. Either look at it as I'm buying it as a store of value, and that's that, or I'm buying it as an investment, hoping that it's going to explode in the future when industrial use really kicks in and they run down or whatever happens. Because there's always a net loss on silver, in terms of what's used each year and what's mined. So eventually it'll have to catch up. But also remember the COMEX. They manipulate silver. If you don't know what it is, just do a Google search, the COMEX. They heavily manipulate silver. So until that manipulation's gone, I think right now is the fair market value based on the manipulation. So listen to what I'm saying again there. I think the market value of silver right now is fair based on the manipulation that is placed on the silver market. So if there was no manipulation, it could be $70 an ounce would be the fair market value. But is that manipulation ever going to go away? Not until there's a giant sort of revolution of the financial system. Not until there's some sort of a catastrophe or a collapse and things get redone. Because it's a crazy world we're in now. If I had the power, and I was a dictator or something like that, I would go in tomorrow and I would get my guys and I would say, right, get in there, close that COMEX down, close down all this manipulation. Let's get the Wall Street guys out of there. Let's put in a more fair system. That's what I'd do tomorrow, but I don't have that power, you see. But one day I think things will change. These people always fall out of power that are doing this manipulation. And I think one day it will change, but I just don't know when that will be. Okay, next question. Okay, it's from, we'll just call him FW, because he's got a silly name. You know who he is. Greetings, Neil. Looking further out, mid to long term, it looks like cryptos such as the USD, currencies such as the USD will fail or be replaced by an unpopular CBDC. In either case, is there any other money alternative other than high quality cryptos such as Bitcoin or precious metals? That's a good question. I would say probably no. I think probably what you've already identified there are ideal in terms of precious metal. You've really got to have a big collapse for that to happen, for you to be able to use your metals. It's not unheard of. Look what happened in the Dark Ages, a long time ago. By the way, when I talk about these sort of cycles, these things are guaranteed. These cycles always happen. They are 100% guaranteed. But people say, oh, he's talking about 100 years ago. He's talking about 200 years ago. Oh, he's out of touch. No. These are cycles. They always repeat. Just think of the Roman era and how amazing that was, and the Renaissance and this and that. Who would have thought that they could go from that to Dark Ages and things like that? So these things do occur. You do have these cycles that always occur. So crypto or precious metals to have that sort of value again, it would really have to be a big collapse. But I keep some metals. I've always got some metals. I think the most valuable thing will be some sort of a cryptocurrency that you can use. So Bitcoin obviously is the number one crypto. It's the biggest market cap, takes up half the market cap. But you've also got Bitcoin Cash, and you've got, there's loads now of cryptocurrencies. I own more than a dozen different types of crypto. In fact, more than 24 different types of crypto right now. But I will be condensing that further soon, especially as we might go into another bear market as we go into the end of the year. We're coming up to the all-time high, 2.7 trillion market cap. Once we get to about 2.5, I'll probably start selling down a little bit of mine. But as I said on Thursday, we've got to get over this 50K threshold with Bitcoin as well. It keeps like fluctuating up, down, until it starts to break out. A lot of the altcoins are struggling. They're really struggling. Look at the Polkadot that I bought at $12 during the crash, $33, and it's struggling to get over that $33 right now. So, I mean, what else is going to replace it in terms of what you're saying the dollar, might fail? The euro, the yuan, the SDR from the International Monetary Fund. I just can't see it. I can't see it. I think the dollar, if the dollar fails, they're probably going to replace it with another dollar. But is the USA going to be the superpower in 5 years? No. It's going to be China. It is. China's going to overtake them in about 5 to 6 years. So they might want to put their digital yuan in. Who knows? Okay, we've got White's online, I believe. So here we go. This is White's question. Hi Neil, with inflation rising, EU markets yesterday reported 3% inflation versus 2%, even though we all know it's a lot higher. What are the steps you see the Fed or the ECB taking, and how do you expect the market to respond to these steps outlined? Well, firstly, I'm starting to lose my voice now. Someone actually wasted their question this month. And they said, Neil, how are you feeling? I'd love to know how you're feeling now. Have you still got the man flu? Yes, I have. That's why I might not be as free-flowing as usual and cognitive. But yeah, I've still got the man flu, guys. But I'm soldiering on here. So what do I think will happen? What do I think they'll do? Number one, I don't think they care about the inflation. They want inflation because what do these guys own? They own assets, stock market, real estate, etc. So I don't really think they care at all about the inflation. Okay. My throat's sore, guys. Sorry about this. So also, you've got to understand that QE is deflationary in nature. That's the other thing to understand. QE is deflation so when QE ends, it's deflationary in nature, is what I was trying to say there. So right now QE is inflationary in nature. You've got to bear that in mind. So when it actually, they don't want to taper, is what I'm trying to say, because when they taper, the assets that they're seeing this huge growth in is going to stop. And they're able to actually just print away all of the debts as well. So it's good for them. You have to remember as well, the people who sit on these boards, the Fed and the ECB, it's a small, very elite board of people. And if you've ever read Lords of Finance and things like that about what happened between World War I and II, really it was just one guy who was making all the decisions, and that was France, Germany, England, and America. It was really just one man from each of those that had the most sway. And that's why you had a lot of problems. So I think the market reaction to that then will be negative. I don't think it's going to be a positive reaction. So what could that look like? Well, you could see a plateau. As we lose the liquidity, you might see a plateau. You could see a market crash. But it's more likely that you'd see a plateau. But if rates were to increase, which I don't think they're going to do, I can't see any interest rate rises. If they do, next year they're going to be tiny, 10 basis points, 0.1%, etc. Then you're going to see problems. Because once you start raising rates, the liquidity just gets sucked out of the market. And that's most markets. That's the housing markets, the stock market, etc. And the problem with that as well, once you lose that liquidity, and this happened during the Great Depression, is all the money just gets sucked in and in and in and in until there isn't really much left. And it affects jobs, it affects businesses. But the good thing for consumers is that is deflationary in nature. So that's really what I was trying to get out there. I shouldn't have gone off track telling you I had man flu, because then my brain remembered I had man flu and I'm like, I can't even think of what I'm saying. Right, next question is from Sam. Hi Neil, this question may be too personal, but I thought I'd give it a shot. I know you said you're looking at or have purchased a more rural place in the US. What will be your trigger to leave the UK and head there? No, I don't mind answering that. Well, firstly, I don't need a trigger to go there because I'm already going there. I'm just waiting on a new visa to go there, green card. That's really all it is. I'm just waiting on that right now, because other than that, I can only spend a certain amount of months each year in the US. So that's all I'm waiting on, and that should be approved pretty quickly. But for me, it's more a case of I just want a more simple way of life. That's really all it is, Sam. I'm looking for a more simple way of life right now, because having lived this very complex life for X amount of years, I've realized in the last year or so where I enjoyed community and where I didn't enjoy community. So when I was in the Midwest and we're out there, I really enjoyed that community. During all the lockdowns and everything crazy going on, I feel like people really pulled together. I really felt that. And I felt that closeness to the community. But in London and in other big cities that I spend time in, like Coventry, etc., I don't really feel that. What I noticed was that it was somewhat the opposite of that. There was a lot of selfishness going on. A lot of people really didn't care. A lot of crime went up, drugs, prostitution, all these things. I was seeing it, not even during the daytime. I was seeing this just in the street, and it made me say, you know what? I don't really want to be part of this society. I want to just go back to a more simple way of life. So that's really it for me. And yeah, we've already got a house there. It's empty right now. So we're going to be going over there, and that will be our base just until we find what we're looking for. Because you've got to understand, I'm a complex guy. I know I'm saying I want it simple, but I'm a complex guy. So what I mean by that is that I need to find the right property with the right acreage for exactly what I'm going to do with that acreage. I need to build a studio. My wife needs a studio. My wife is a consultant, so she consults. She needs to have certain things at the house. She'll need her own studio at the house and things like that. So there's a lot of things going on that we have to just bear in mind. And then location-wise, I need to be in certain locations, etc. So that's really it. There isn't much more to it than that, to be honest. Callisto. Hi Neil, in a bail-in situation, USA or UK, how might trust funds be affected? That is an impossible question to answer, actually. And the reason why is because a bail-in affects money in the bank, where the bank treats your money as a deposit or a loan to them, and therefore they can default on that loan and give you worthless shares in their bank in return. Fully legal now, it's passed in most Western nations and non-Western nations as well. A trust fund is slightly different. A trust fund is managed by a third party other than yourself, for example. So it can be for children of wealthy people. It could be that the parents have passed away and left money. It could be all sorts of different things for trust fund. Where that money is invested, I can't tell you because it will be different for every single person. So I think what I'd be more concerned with a trust fund is where it's invested, not a bail-in. Where's that money invested and how risky is that investment? That's really the question that I would be looking at, Callisto, to be honest. I think that's really what you want to be looking towards. This one's from MT. Hi Neil, can you discuss how to take out profits from your initial investment of crypto? And do you hold it in a ledger and or reinvest? Good question. I think for everyone, really, it depends what your goals are with a crypto. So for me, it's not as if I'm making these investments to change my life and that I'm going to use this money to buy a big house and a couple of Lamborghinis and whatever. That's not what's going to happen. In most likelihood, what I'll end up doing with the profits that I make is the same I do most years. And then there's a lot of those profits go towards, charitable causes, things like that. I'm not going to go into it because I don't want people to think I'm bragging and stuff like that. But you've got to look at what it is that you're going to do with that money. For me, it doesn't really make any difference. So win, lose, it's more of an ego thing. I feel good if I win. I feel bad if I lose. But fortunately, I haven't lost in a good few years. So I seem to be up quite well on my investments. So that's the first thing. What are your goals with it? And then that way you can look at the risk factor as well. So how do you take profits out? Well, this is my strategy. Let's say I invested $1 into a cryptocurrency, and then that crypto went up by, say, 50%. I'm probably not going to touch it. I'm just going to leave it. But if that crypto went up by 100% and went to $2, you'll notice, for those of you in the Patreon, what I always do is you'll see it on the spreadsheet, and I make posts about it. I then say, okay, guys, remember I told you I was buying this one and a lot of you bought it. Now's the time to sell down it because, it's gone up 100%. So then I might sell down 100%, half of it, right? Let's say it's gone up 100%. I might sell down half of it. Why have I done that? Because now my initial dollar that I put in that became $2, I've now took my initial dollar back, but I've still got $1 in. And then I'm just going to leave that to grow because now I've got none of my own money in. And this is a strategy I use for a lot of investments. I want to double it, and then I want to pull my initial investment out. And I want to find, but sometimes I might pull the whole thing out. I might not leave any in. Sometimes I might pull everything out and then look for another investment. So silver was a couple of years ago, like I mentioned, 18 months ago. That was the investment then to double. And then it was crypto. And that was later of last year, and it doubled through to March time or so. In fact, it did more than double because some of it did 200%. Some of the like T-Fuel or V-Chain, things like that, they were up by 10 times. So, there's 1,000% increase there. So some of that stuff, I sell it down, then I look for new assets to buy into, you see. So this is my technique. Everyone has different ways of doing it. But I would never put in 100% of the money that I needed, for example. So right now, we were just talking about, I want to buy myself a nice plot of land. Who knows how big that land might be? It could even be 100 acres. I have no idea how big it's going to be. So I wouldn't want to have spare cash and invest it all into something that could be quite speculative if I need that money to buy a property. So this is one way to look at it. You want to take the profits on the way up. Yeah, I think that really covers the question at the moment. Oh yeah, and the next part of it was, do you hold it in a ledger or reinvest it? So I think I talked about this before, but I use a YubiKey. And a YubiKey is amazing because they don't have any there's no sort of records of any hacks with a YubiKey. So no one can take cryptocurrency, for example, off the wallet. So let's say you're on Kraken, Coinbase, Binance, whatever. No one can steal your cryptocurrency if you use a YubiKey, because it has to be touched and all that to actually activate it. That's one of the reasons I recommend YubiKeys. So I actually, that's one thing I would say that I do have cold storage as well. I don't really have a lot of cold storage because I'd rather leave it on the platform and actually stake it. So you can make huge amounts of money as well staking crypto. Not just crypto, but other assets as well you can do similar with. But you can stake crypto, you can make really nice returns. You know, you really want to be making 12% on your money right now, on your assets. If you're not, you're probably getting hit by inflation where it's eating away that capital in the bank. And just on this, if any of you have a lot of capital in the bank and right now you're really not sure what to do with it, just remember you can always book a one-on-one session with me. Okay, I can't give you financial, like legal financial advice, but I can guide you and just give you some guidance on what I would do if I had that money. And, you know, I do these sessions on a Monday. Yeah, they're Monday sessions. If you want to book one, you'll see below all my videos there's a link to book that. Just come on through, have a chat, and I'll just give you my thoughts on it. A lot of people ask me. In fact, I would say 80% of the people are women that actually have sessions with me, 20% are men, because the stories I hear a lot of the time from the ladies who say I've been ripped off and this advisor told me this and that. The thing is, if you're not paying for a financial advisor, then they're probably making profit out of what they sell you on. And most financial advisors are pretty good. They do tend to be quite good. But what if you get one of those who isn't ethical and they've got a choice? Do I put this lady here into this product, which is crap, but I'm going to make a huge commission? Or do I do the right thing and put her into this product that's best for her, but I make a tiny commission? If you're not paying them for guidance, then you might end up with one of those people. So there it is. And again, you're more than welcome to join the private community. Everyone is more than welcome. You get to ask me, if you're on tier 3, a question every month on here, and you can send me a private message. We've got a forum. I just think it's a great thing. So if you're looking to invest, or you've got money, or you're not really sure what to do, I mean, that's what we're here for as a community, to really help each other out. And in the private community as well, we've got an amazing forum, absolutely amazing. So yeah, come along and join in. But let's see if we've got any questions coming through. I don't mind answering a couple of questions now if there's any coming through. But yeah, anything you guys want to chat about, drop it into the stream here. I'm happy to have a quick chat with you guys. I'm just going to have a look if there's any questions here. A lot of comments. It tends to be a lot of comments, not usually a lot of questions. Let's see what we've got. Let's see if we've got any. We haven't got many questions coming through. All right, I was hoping we might have some. I'm going to give it another 30 seconds and I'll end the stream otherwise. If we haven't got any questions coming through then. Okay, here we go. We've got a question. I've already covered metals actually. But we've got one from Moose Lodge. I don't know if that is... Yeah, okay, Moose Lodge. The housing market is just skyrocketing in the United States. If you wanted to buy a home, would you buy now or would you wait? Perfect question for me because I'm in that situation. And it depends, you know. It depends if you already own a home. Like for me, we have 2 homes. We have UK, we have USA. So it's not really a case of for us buying a new home, because if we were going to buy a new home in the UK, we'd sell the house we've got here, If we're going to buy a new one in the US, we'd sell that one. So it's a little bit different for us. I think it's only a matter of time anyway until we have a housing correction or a housing crash. But these things can go on for a long time. And remember, even when things do start to crash, they don't just crash in a month. They don't just crash by 50% in a month. They take years to come down by, say, 50%, if it ever went down that much. It's going to take years to do it. So it's also an emotional thing. Men tend to be more sort of, I want to wait and be rational. And then for the ladies, it's usually more a case of, it's a home, I want to feel comfortable, I want that security, etc. So you've probably had that conversation with your spouse. You've got to look at that angle as well. But I do think it's only a matter of time until house prices do come down. But once the interest rates, the other thing is interest rates. When are they going to go up? I don't think it's going to be for a long time yet where it's going to make a big impact. Tapering, that might make an impact. But whilst these big funds have got liquidity and they can use these low interest rates to keep buying, it's going to keep the housing market propped up. It's a very difficult question. But the USA is a lot easier than the UK and other European markets because each market is a pocket. And then in each pocket, you've got another pocket. Size of house, location within a city. And then as well, are the jobs going there? Are the jobs leaving there? Are there problems? Like New York, problems. San Francisco, problems. Two cities I'd never live in. In fact, I'd have sold my property and moved somewhere else straight away if I was in those sort of places. So, there's a lot to bear in mind. Would I buy now or would I wait? If I didn't own a home right now, it's a toss-up between 30-year fixed rate, really, really low, and just ride it out for 30 years and then forget it, regardless of whether there's a crash or not. Or do you wait until house prices come down and interest rates go up later on, however many years that takes to occur? It's a tough one. You've really got to make that call. And I know there's a lot of you watching right now who are in this position. And it's a different look. I'm in this position as well. Do I wait or do I buy now? Because obviously the next place I'm going to buy is going to be a lot more, 5-6 times more than where we will be. So it's a difficult situation. I'm in the same boat, but that's why I'm looking at land as well. Land doesn't tend to fluctuate in terms of the supply and demand side as much as houses do in the city. City houses, condos, these are they fluctuate massively. So you've got to just really do a lot of research into the area, the jobs, any issues that might come in the future, and then make those decisions. Look at what happened when, big factories closed down in certain places. Look at Michigan, for example. When you have the big factories closing, the jobs go. Look what happened to those houses there. Look at these case studies to help you make a decision. All right, let's see. Neil, mustache update. No, I'm not going for the big... They want me to get a big handlebar like mustache. I'm not going for that, guys. Sorry. I've had this little goatee here for a long time. And I'm keeping it, guys. Shay, what's your thoughts on Tether propping up the crypto market? 60 billion printed in 1 year like the Fed. Yeah, Grant Williams, because I don't want to butcher this. Have a look at Grant Williams, for those of you who are already familiar with him. He does a great podcast. They did an in-depth research piece into Tether, and I think it's got some legs, what they did. And it is worrying to me. It is worrying. I'm keeping my eye on it. And I'm not going to be holding any Tether. Put it this way. I will not be holding any Tether. If I'm going to be holding some sort of stable coin, it's not going to be Tether, believe me. If I'm worried about crypto going down quite heavily, I'm going to put my money into Bitcoin, or I'm going to convert it back to British pounds, US dollars. I'm not going to be, I'm not going to be putting it into a Tether. No, it's too risky. Robert's asking me thoughts on ARRR, which is Piratechain. Yeah, I like Piratechain, just like I like Monero, Privacy. I like them. I don't know if they're going to go up the way people think they're going to explode. It's the same with AMP. Someone asked me, about AMP a few months ago, and they said they're going all in on AMP a few months ago. I said, I probably wouldn't, in all honesty, because as I mentioned earlier on the stream, you just don't know. I'd never go all in on anything just because you think it might explode up. So, I don't know. I haven't got any Piratechain anyway. I've got Monero. Okay, top dollar for houses. I've just answered that question. Housing market. Next crash. Ryan's asking, what sort of crash? We've got so many markets here. Usually when you see crashes is when the liquidity goes. Liquidity and everything just dries up. Interest rates go up, tapering comes down, etc. Or QE comes down. This is when you usually start to see crashes. So just look out for these markers. David's asking me, have I settled on a place to live yet? Yeah, so we're going to be living in Kentucky. So that's the state that we've focused on. We really like it. We also looked at Indiana, and that's why I said Indiana at the start. We looked at a lot of states. We really love Florida as well, but we just feel that it's going to be Kentucky for us initially, and we'll see. We're still going to keep our house in the UK here in England. So, as I said, you're not a tree. You can move around, and I think that'll be a nice project for me. The thing is, these things take time. Everything takes time. So we don't just want to buy something because there's a nice manor house that's available in Kentucky. I won't say where because, my wife wants us to buy it. I don't know if we're going to buy it. It's really run down. But, it's got like marble fireplaces and chandeliers from Italy. These pieces alone are worth double what the house is worth. It's a little bit run down, but it hasn't got a huge amount of land. It's only got half an acre. So there's all these things. These things take time. I don't like to rush decisions because taking on a new house or property, once you're there, that's it. You're in. So I want to do all the work in my mind first. So do I want to have any farmland? Do I want to have any of this? Do I want to do that? What about water sources, which we talked about? What about this? What about, there's so much to bear in mind. Timber claims, farmland, etc. So I just want to take my time with it, do a ton of research before I actually make a final decision. Please click the like button. Yeah, thanks. Please click like. Do I think the US is getting too weak? That's from Lisa. Yeah, I think most Western nations have become weak. I really do. I think, especially when you have a society where men are penalized for being masculine. But that is what men are designed to be. They're designed to be masculine, right? But we're trying to switch everything around. This has always been the way. I don't know. We're trying to make women masculine and men feminine. It's just backwards. And I think as well, the US and the UK, I think we've all become weak. But is it a case of we've become weak or we were always weak? Well, you look at what happened in World War II. A lot of the historians don't actually cover this. But when Germany started to attack these different countries, you had, I don't know if it was NATO back then, but you had an alliance. It slips my mind. Probably a historian's like slapping their head now at me, and I'm sure they'll put it in the stream. But you had an alliance of countries then that were supposed to go and stop Germany and Hitler back in the day from taking over the other countries. They didn't. They just sat there and didn't do anything because they were scared there was weak leadership at the time. So I think you have weakness and weak leadership no matter what. It just comes around in cycles. You've just got to make sure that you haven't got a weak leader at a time of conflict. If the US went to a conflict now, you guys are in trouble with your, love or hate Biden, whatever you think of him. He's not a military man. He's not a sort of strong man. And that's what you need in a time of conflict. So maybe People might say he's the perfect president right now. I wouldn't say that, but maybe a lot of people would say he's the perfect president right now in a time of peace. Maybe. But I think right now, the time that America's in and other countries are in, this isn't a good time. It's a ticking time bomb. We're going into a new cycle, and it's not going to be a good cycle. And at that point, you really need tough, strong leadership. You don't want weak leadership. How much crypto do you have? Spanish John, go into the Patreon. It's all there. You can see exactly what I've got. But let's just say I'm now a crypto millionaire, which was not my intention. I'm not sure how that happened. Just good purchases bumped me up. Would I buy more DOT now if I hadn't bought yet? I would wait. See, I'm waiting to sell my Polkadot at about $45. Maybe I'll wait till $50, but I think I'll probably unload it, a lot of it, at $45. I don't know what it's at right now, but I'm going to guess it's $32, $33. I haven't checked it today since yesterday, but I'm going to guess it's. I don't think it's exploded or gone down. I think it's probably tracked somewhat Bitcoin over the last 24 hours. So someone can tell me after if I'm right. I think you probably haven't seen much movement, no more than 0.5% or 1% in the last day or so. So would I buy it? I'd be waiting for Bitcoin to break out 50K right now. If Bitcoin doesn't break 50K and go up to say 60K, I probably wouldn't be buying Polkadot right now. The price point, I still think it's undervalued. I do. Same with KSM, the Canary platform. I still think, because they're connected, I still think they are undervalued. But are they a good buy right now? I don't know. I'm on the fence. Would I buy more? Maybe. But I'd wait for a breakout of Bitcoin first, personally. Can I organize a live stream with George Gammon? I'd love to. I'd love to speak with George. I don't even know if George knows who I am, to be honest. But, you guys are more than welcome. Go on his video, blast him. If you're in his private community, blast him. Let's get something set up. All right, let's see. Anything else? Metals or Bitcoin from Chris Gordon. Again, I'm going to revert you back to my question earlier, Chris. Have a look at that if you've only just joined the stream, because they're completely different in terms of investment. Yeah, Neil, how many hours of sleep are you getting? Those bags under your eyes need some ice. No, I've got man flu this week. See, that just shows me you're not a loyal subscriber. You didn't watch my stream on Thursday. Well, I was talking about. No, I'm dying this week, but I'll be all right next week. I've taken the right stuff now, and I feel a lot better today. So thanks, people who recommended certain things to take. I did that. I dosed on that yesterday. I'm feeling a lot better today. All right, good. I think I think I'm going to end it there because we're coming up to 1 hour now. So, guys, thanks for being on the stream. Nice to talk to you all. See you all next time. God bless.